Two legendary operatives, one deadly secret. When elite agent Samuel Cross, Denzel Washington, and rogue assassin Mason Drake, Jason Statham, uncover a global conspiracy tied to a ruthless crime lord, they must set aside their past to stop a catastrophic weapon from falling into the wrong hands. But as the truth unravels, betrayal lurks in the shadows, because the final secret is one neither of them saw coming. Cameras. The city was drowning in rain, neon lights flickering against the wet pavement as two men moved through the shadows. Mason Drake, a hardened assassin with nothing to lose, adjusted his grip on the silenced pistol at his side. Across from him, Agent Samuel Cross stood firm, his sharp eyes locked onto Mason's. They weren't here as friends. A decade of history separated them. Missions gone wrong, orders given that should never have been followed. But tonight, that didn't matter. There was something bigger at stake. Victor Kane, the elusive crime lord who had been manipulating world events from the shadows, was about to make his final move. He had obtained the Cipher Drive, a device capable of decrypting the most classified intelligence networks in the world. If he sold it, entire governments would crumble. If he used it, no one would be safe. The only problem? Neither Mason nor Cross knew exactly where the deal was going down. In September 1942, the Cipher Drive was finally located at Florida Memorial Hospital in Steelyburg. They had a name, Rachel Shaw, a hacker skilled enough to track Kane's every move, but getting to her meant going through the most dangerous streets of the underworld. Mason moved first, his footsteps silent as he navigated through the warehouse district. He had been here before, years ago, when things were simpler. Back then, his orders were clear: eliminate the target, leave no witnesses. But this mission wasn't like the others. There was no contract, no payout, just the cold truth that if they failed, the world would burn. Cross followed, his movements precise, his years of training evident in the way he checked every shadow, every corner. He didn't trust Mason, not yet, and maybe not ever, but trust wasn't a luxury they had time for. Inside a run-down club, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and the stench of cheap whiskey. Men with cold eyes sat in booths, watching, waiting. Mason spotted the mark first. Marco Reyes, Victor Kane's right-hand man. He was built like a tank, a scar running across his cheek, his knuckles bruised from whatever poor soul had crossed him last. Cross stepped forward. "We're looking for Rachel Shaw." Marco smirked, taking a slow drag from his cigar. "Funny, she was just asking about you." That was the only warning they got before the first shot rang out. Mason dove to the side, pulling his weapon in one fluid motion, squeezing the trigger twice. The first bullet hit its mark, dropping one of Marco's men instantly. Cross moved with practiced precision, taking out another before he ducked behind cover. Marco was already on the move, escaping through a back door. They gave chase, the rain hammering against their faces as they sprinted through the alleyways. Marco was fast, but desperation made him reckless. He turned to fire over his shoulder, but Mason was quicker, sending a bullet through his knee. The man collapsed, screaming. Cross grabbed him by the collar. "Where is Rachel?" Marco laughed, blood dripping from his lips. Too late. A car screeched around the corner, men with rifles leaning out. Mason barely had time to react before the bullets tore through the night. Cross pulled him behind a dumpster. As rounds sparked against the metal, the car sped off, leaving Marco bleeding out in the rain. They needed to move fast. Mason had dealt with Kane's kind before. When a man like that wanted someone dead, he didn't miss. It took them an hour to find her. Rachel was holed up in an abandoned apartment, her fingers flying over a keyboard as lines of code streamed across multiple monitors. She barely glanced up when they entered, her voice steady. "You idiots took your time." Cross crossed his arms. "You're in danger." She scoffed. "Yeah, no kidding." She turned the screen toward them. On it was Kane, live, speaking to someone off camera. "The deal goes down in 12 hours. The Cipher Drive will be in my hands, and the world will finally understand what true power looks like." Rachel's face was grim. "He's making the trade at a shipping yard outside the city. If he gets away with that drive, everything changes." Mason cracked his knuckles. "Then we stop him." The yard was crawling with mercenaries. Snipers on the rooftops, patrols sweeping every entrance. A lesser team would have called for backup, but Mason and Cross weren't a team. They were a force of nature. Mason moved first, scaling a shipping container with the ease of a predator. Cross took the ground, dispatching guards with silent efficiency. Rachel stayed behind, feeding them real-time updates through their earpieces. There's a window, she said. Northwest corner, move now. They did. Inside, Kane stood with a briefcase, his smirk arrogant. Across from him, a faceless buyer held the cipher drive. Mason stepped into the light. Evening, Kane. The crime lord chuckled. Ah, the prodigal son returns, and you brought a friend. Cross raised his weapon. It's over. Kane tilted his head. Is it? The lights cut out. Gunfire erupted. Mason dove, rolling behind cover as bullets tore through metal. Cross took position, firing in controlled bursts. Rachel's voice was in their ears, frantic. You've got company, big company. Kane was already moving, disappearing into the chaos. Mason cursed, chasing after him. The fight blurred, fists meeting flesh, gunshots echoing in the darkness. Kane was fast, but Mason was faster. He caught him at the edge of the dock, the waves crashing below. You're done, Kim? The villain only grinned. Emma? A helicopter rose from the darkness, its spotlight blinding. Kane lunged, knocking Mason back as he leaped for the ladder hanging from the chopper. Mason fired, but Kane was gone, vanishing into the night. Cross arrived, breathless. Tell me you got it. Mason opened his hand. The cipher drive gleamed in the moonlight. Rachel's voice came through. Boys, I hate to ruin the moment, but we have a problem. Kane didn't just have one drive. He has more. Mason looked at Cross.